Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial. Go to audibletrial.com/Rushmore. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff, and I'm joined, as per usual, by my good friends Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
How do you do?
Richard and Michael are my super friends, but they love to debate things. They love to discuss the four things of any given topic that fill them with joy or ire, and this week is no different. But this week is a topic that I chose, and it is the Mount Rushmore of fictional butlers. I am, for some reason, my whole life I've been fascinated with butlers. They seem like a holdover of the class system, like, say, we had in Europe. But I've always loved people who make a living off of helping other people. I think of Elvis Presley and the Memphis Mafia, all the clingers that clinged on to him, Vince and the Entourage on the show Entourage. Mm-hmm. But then...
Michael and Richard on Jeffcast.
That's right. All the things that we think of literature and things like that. But I'll say that my first example, and it's something we touched on in another podcast, and that was the Mount Rushmore of second-tier Star Wars droids, was the movie Star Wars, and how these robots, R2-D2 and C-3PO, were servants to their master Luke. And that was... when I think about it, maybe my first prototype for fictitious butler. So that tells you how broad I'm willing to go with the answers to this question, your choices. So that was maybe the worst explanation in history, but I don't think we even needed one. So I would like to pick as the first person to start the person who was wearing... Richard's hunkering. Okay, Michael, you start. Maybe Richard will come out of his shell later on.
Okay. I realized that all of my butlers, there's something strangely fucked up about every situation.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if it's just how they got in the situation is just messed up or just anyway, we'll get into it. But my first one is Alfred the butler from Batman.
Oh, I love it.
Who is part butler. You know, he runs Wayne Manor, but then he's also part father figure.
Yeah.
Confident.
Uh-huh.
He, assists in the running of Batman in the Batcave.
Yeah.
He's also this military guy, and he can patch up Batman whenever he's hurt.
Did you think of the TV series Batman, or are you thinking of, say, Michael Caine in the Dark Knight series? Or
if I'm thinking of a particular Batman, it's probably the Michael Goff. The Michael Go one. Goff or Go? Goff.
This is the Alfred from the Stevie series.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's Alan Napier.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking of the one that was in the first, it was in the Tim Burton Batman movie.
Okay.
That he's kind of a little more aloof and a little more hoity-toity.
Oh, okay.
But all of the different variations of Alfred, they kind of, it's interesting to see that they can have a different kind of pass at him.
Yeah.
It's kind of this template for whatever you want. The Alan Napier one in the Batman 66 TV series was ridiculous, and on occasion would dress up like Batman, even with his mustache, his gray mustache. It's obviously an old man in a Batman costume.
Yeah.
Right.
The lengths that he'll go to for Batman and for Bruce Wayne is astounding.
And did he have a British accent? Or no? I don't recall.
I think it depends on... I think, yes, ultimately Alfred Pennyworth is an English... Is an English, they retcon everything, so he's probably an English secret agent at some point, too. Mm-hmm. But, he's a guy that literally served this family and would do anything for this man, and his insane quest. Here's a man that was broken, as a broken person. His mentality is all over the place. He's... so fixated on justice and vengeance, and Alfred's well, okay, I guess I'll help you design a Batman costume, and I guess I'll help you build this giant bat cave, and also I guess I'm your father now. Mm-hmm. So, these butlers tend to kind of be both family members and employees, and how it's so hard to... I've never seen I don't think Alfred's ever been fired. You know, he becomes like this. He is this father figure, and then,
Or maybe he's been fired.
I guess they've written enough stories.
I'm sure at some point there was some like he was fired, but like it was a fake firing, or he got fired and then came back like the same like issue.
Yeah, the 1960s into the 70s Batmans and Supermans, like there was always some aspect of where like Batman was like a dick, or Superman was just being really mean to Superboy, and like he'd encase him in cement and fly off and hang out with like Wonder Woman or Lois. He's like, and this is for your own good, Superboy.
I do speculate that Wayne Manor is at least 300,000 square feet and has probably 1 million guest rooms, and so I want to see who works for Alfred, because he must have a legion of staff, which leads me to Downton Abbey, Wayne Manor. Wouldn't that be cool to see the upstairs downstairs relationship between?
They're all robots.
Are they?
It's all androids
created by Bruce
No,
Wayne?
it's just he just has like a horde of like android like robot things.
No, Batman is cruel. It is only Alfred. He has this great wealth of technology beneath the mansion that he's got a giant dinosaur down there, this robot, this giant penny and his bat computer, and he's, crime lab. And then Alfred's up there like polishing the silver, and he has to help him solve crimes too.
Yeah, but Jeff, how many?
You don't think there's like a charwoman? Master Wayne soiled his linens again. Rachel, you will get those clean by tomorrow.
No, because here's the thing. He might have an 800-room mansion, but he's only ever like in 3 goddamn rooms.
Okay.
Right? I mean,
All
it's not like he's having parties there.
Just
it's not like he's got like. I mean, basically, he has to keep like the bottom is like his like.
Just
den.
polishing those suits of armor alone is a full-time fucking job.
Well, I think the one thing
Who does HVAC?
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze. Oh. Drop the laptop. That's a laptop drop.
One thing Alfred as the butler does help do is kind of keep up the playboy facade of Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
Like, cause Batman isn't Bruce Wayne. He's Batman. Like, that's his natural state is to be this other character. Like, Bruce Wayne is always like this person that he pretends to be, so he has to be there to help throw, host parties and be very welcoming. So I'm sure, like Richard's right, he only lives in like three rooms of the mansion, but it's just when a party rolls in, they have to take all the dust, all the dust covers off of everything, and then they have a cleaning crew that accidentally stumbles into the Batcave.
Yeah. Do you think Alfred ever?
Batman kills him.
Do you think Alfred ever goes on vacation?
Oh yeah.
And do they have to get like a temp or something like? Okay, so let me tell you a little. Do not go in the ball. Just like
the following rooms. Okay, just here are the rooms you can go in.
Right, and you'll probably be killed at the end of this.
Okay, if you accidentally lift up Shakespeare's head, don't press the button. Don't slide down the poles.
If you see a young boy running around in his underwear, just call him Robin. It's a normal thing.
It's a normal thing. Okay, well, I think that's a strong start. Is Alfred the butler? Richard, what do you got?
All right, so I have categories this week. I have race relations.
Whoa.
I have smarter than their bosses. I have dealing with hicks, and secretly not butlers.
Okay.
So first one, race relations. I have Rochester from the Jack Benny Show.
Oh, cool.
Rochester, who...
Rochester.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think that's, if you know him at all, because he's Rochester. Started off as a character on the radio show, and for the first few seasons of the radio show was kind of a, let's say maybe not the most racially balanced character.
Okay.
But there's definitely a Amos and Andy quality to him.
Okay.
But after World War II, actually, after the Holocaust, Jack Benny basically decided, look, we need to get rid of any of the race.
Jack Benny, Bruce Wayne, butler swap.
Wait, is Jack Benny Bruce Wayne?
I would just love if they swap.
Or just swap jobs. Yeah. I'd like to see Jack Benny as Batman.
So after World War II.
After World War II, Jack Benny basically, they decided, look, we need to cut it out with the racial stuff.
Yeah.
And they made Rochester more of a comic foil for Jack Benny in a way that was not necessarily about him being black.
I see.
It was just about, you know, the stereotypes of Jack Benny, of him being a penny pincher and, you know, all of the Jack Benny things. And Rochester would play off of that and usually be smarter than him.
Yes.
And get Jack Benny to wind up doing his chores for him. Or, not that they didn't occasionally go down that route. One time there's a episode where they're out there was snowing, and Jack Benny said something like, Rochester, don't go out there. You're going to get lost. We'll never find you in that snow. And Rochester kind of goes, really? Me?
Oh, okay.
Because he's black.
Mm-hmm.
And then snow's white.
But it was more he was playing on the idiosyncrasies of his employer.
Yeah, it was probably one of the first popular culture representations of a black person.
Yeah. Even
though he was still working for a white person, and there's still some, obviously, issues with that, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it was one of the first times where there was a black character who was able to have comedy that wasn't based on him being black.
Okay. Yeah.
Like him being stuck in the snow.
Yeah.
Well, occasionally, like I said, but that wasn't really about him. It wasn't like, it's funny because you're black. You're like,
right.
You know what I mean?
We found Jack Benny decades after its original audience.
Yeah, and I loved Jack Benny growing up. I used to be able, like, at the pharmacy that I was right down the street. You could get like the so back it was the tape, not actual audio tapes.
Oh.
They would make of old time radio broadcasts, and so I would get that. I would get Abbott and Costello, and you listen to those Jack Benny programs. It's very kind of modern, some of the humor.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of breaking the fourth wall. You know, they talk directly to the audience.
Yeah,
they kind of take a break and talk directly to you and say something kind of an aside. So it was a lot more advanced than you would think for a radio show from the 1940s.
Yeah.
That kind of extended to the relationship between Rochester and Jack Benny. Rochester, the actor, Eddie Anderson, wound up becoming arguably maybe more as popular, if not more, than Jack Benny.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and one time he was flown into Boston to give a speech at Harvard. The students from MIT caught wind of this, met him at the airport, and basically convinced him tricked him that they were the guys from Harvard, took off with him. Guys from Harvard figured this out, and it basically started a mini riot.
Oh, funny. Okay, Michael, what's your second choice?
My second answers the question of, did the butler do it? And the answer is yes, he did do it. Wadsworth from the movie Clue.
Oh, also one of my choices. That was the secretly not a butler.
Oh, great.
Category.
Okay.
Clue, or if you're like French and obnoxious or English and obnoxious, Cluedo, which is a mix of the word clue and the word ludo, which means I play, which is basically just like a version of like Parcheesi. This is a wonderful movie of the 80s that had like a lot of great performances, and Tim Curry was just so perfect in the role, and he was proper and manic and kind of just all over the place. Did great impressions of like the other characters in it, and in it he played the butler of the mansion where a crime has been committed, or a crime is to be committed, I guess.
The mansion of Mr. Body.
Mr. Body's mansion, yes. It was a pretty faithful and incredible interpretation of a board game.
Yeah.
Like, not like Battleship. Like,
well, the Boggle movie was pretty good.
Yeah. Backgammon movie. So
why is it like
too many shoots, not enough ladders in that movie? They clearly spent all their money on ladders.
Hi-ho, Cheerio. Need more cherries, if you know what I mean. Maybe a little more hose.
In the movie, he plays like the butler of this mansion, and 8-9 characters have been invited there for some reason that they don't know. And throughout the course of the evening, someone gets killed, and everyone's kind of implicated in it.
Yeah.
And he's just so good in like being in this role that, like Richard said, he wasn't actually a butler. Spoiler alert. He was,
depending on which ending, he was either he was actually Mr. Body.
Yes.
Or he was possibly the FBI.
Yes.
Oh.
There are 3 endings to the movie. They filmed a 4th, but it was like never put out.
Right.
And at the time, depending on what theater you saw it as, you saw one of the 3 endings.
I actually went to the theater and saw this.
Did you?
Yeah, and it had like, you would buy a ticket, and it was like theater 1 was ending A and 2 was B. And
wow, and they actually kind of said that, or
yeah, and
wow.
it was because it was like basically a scam to try to get you to buy 3 different tickets. Yeah,
I only ever saw it like on video cassette, and like it just had all 3 with.
Maybe this happened.
Yeah, all the fun interstitial at the end. And
yeah,
clever wordplay and everything.
Mm-hmm. No, I put this on here because, like you said, Tim Curry. I don't know that anyone else could have played this role.
Yeah, they. It was strange because like, it could have been like Rowan Atkinson was up for the role, and he played a butler on Blackadder 3.
Right.
And John Cleese apparently, but I guess John Cleese could have probably pulled it off.
There's a bit of
he can be manic.
I guess Wadsworth was like a less bitter Basil Fawlty a little bit, so you could definitely see that.
I think the thing that I remember most fondly was someone asking him, what does a butler do? And he says, I buttle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. Like I said, I saw it in the theaters when I was like 10 or whatever I was. Enjoyed it there. And it just, you talked about the 3 different endings, and each one it kind of gets to this kind of manic state where they're running around, the mansion, like reenacting all the murders and how you could have done this. And again, that's just, it's a super fun part. For the 2 endings, I think I saw one of the I think it was one of the ones where he was the FBI. Is the one I remember seeing in the theater. Mm-hmm. And it kind of worked because if you see Tim Curry in a movie, like 95% chance he did it.
Yeah.
He's going to be the bad guy. Yeah. And didn't have to have like a horrible accent as in
Congo.
Congo.
Well, in Legend, he was wearing a devil costume, so you probably knew he was the guy who did it.
So it felt obvious that it was going to be him.
Yeah.
But then 2 out of the 3 endings, it actually wasn't him, and in fact, he was the hero.
Yeah. So we are halfway through, and this is the time where we ask you to rate and review our podcast. But before we do that, we want to ask you to do something else. We want to ask you to use Audible. Audible's offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you, the listener, you're listening, all right, the opportunity to check out their service. If you want to learn more about fictitious valets, or also known as butlers, you can go listen to The Code of the Woosters, Jeeves to the Rescue, or Very Good Jeeves, both by P.G. Wodehouse and Jonathan Cecil. Those are on Audible. That's right. With 180,000 other titles, Audible has it all. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Rushmore. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Rushmore for your free audiobook. So yeah, please download, rate, and review our past podcasts. You can find them on iTunes and Stitcher, or go on our Facebook page and get in the dialogue. Please let us know what kind of topics you'd love to hear us cover. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Mount Rushmore Podcast. And we are back. So, Richard, this would be your third.
Sure. My third one is in the category of smarter than their bosses, which I realized after the fact I wrote this. That's pretty much every, fictional butler.
Yeah.
There's never a butler. You don't see many fictional butlers who are like really bad at butling. But I went with Benson.
Oh, fun.
From Soap, and then later the TV show Benson. Played by Robert Guillaume. Mm-hmm. A show that I really loved as a kid, especially Benson. My mom was a huge Soap fan as well, so I kind of had started watching that when I was younger, and then kind of graduated into watching Benson.
Yeah.
And certainly an interesting backstory for the character. I don't know civics, but
I always ask you civic stuff because I just think Richard knows civics.
Yeah, Mr. Civics is what they call me. Yeah. But I'm not familiar with the qualifications it takes to become a lieutenant governor.
Yeah.
Or a director of the Office of Budget Management in pre-Trump era America.
That's right.
Yeah.
Please, nice caveat on there.
I'm pretty sure being a butler is not one of the well, one of the qualifications.
I always had a crush on Kraus.
Inga?
Inga. I thought there was somebody named Kraus.
Well, maybe I'm thinking of the actress.
You just love anybody named Kraus.
Yeah.
Also loves Krauts.
I have Krauts.
Maybe I may be thinking of the actress's name.
Okay.
So we can probably. I am Inga Svensson. You had a crush on her?
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know. It's just something now. But I also liked Rosie O'Donnell.
Okay. Hey, whatever floats your boat, man.
Really? Okay, I'm gonna take off my pants.
And there we go.
Yeah, Miss Gretchen Wilhelmina Kraus. Inga Swenson. Oh, she's hot. Okay. All right. Never mind.
He started as a character on the show Soap, which was this kind of parody of soap operas, and was the butler for Katherine Hellman's character, Jessica Tate, and was basically in the role of the sassy, the character who would put everybody in their place, especially her husband, but pretty much anyone who came into the line of sight. So popular that they spun him off into the show Benson. And during the course of the 7 years of the show being on, he went from being head of the mansion to the budget director to the lieutenant governor to then running for mayor. And the cliffhanger of the final episode is him and the current governor watching the results together, and they're getting ready to announce who had won. They leave it on a to be continued.
Oh. Yeah.
Then it got canceled.
Oh, that's funny.
Wah, wah, wah. And maybe it's just because I thought Robert Guillaume was such a powerful kind of presence as an actor. Of course, he was also a Broadway star, great singing voice. And it was interesting. They would, at least once in a season, they would come up with some excuse for Benson to have to sing. And actually, Inga Swenson was also a Broadway singer.
Oh, she was. Okay.
So they would, at least once a season, they would be like, oh, it's Christmas Eve and everyone's snowed in. It was the type of show that did a lot of bottle episodes. Yeah. Oh, why don't we sing some Christmas songs? Or one time they had to have a telethon for something, and then none of the performers showed up, so they all had to go up there and do something. And it was, I don't know, I'd have to rewatch it to see if it was a great show. I remember it being a really good show, but I remember a lot of things being pretty good in the 80s that when you rewatch it don't hold up very well. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty sitcom-y type show, and it always tried to have the message somewhere in the middle of it. But it was a show that wouldn't have worked without, I think, kind of like Tim Curry, without that actor kind of being a force.
Okay, Richard had Benson. Michael, what's your third?
Hey, let's stay in the 80s and with 80s TV shows and talk about someone, a real down on his luck case, it seems, with Mr. Belvedere.
All right.
My last pick.
Is it?
Whoa, okay.
Mr. Belvedere was a 40s book about an English housekeeper who goes to live with an American family in order to kind of write about them and write about his experience. And in the 80s, all you need to do is take that, add a little bit of Bob Uecker, throw him in Pittsburgh.
Gold.
Boom, there you go. What are the dire situation that he was in that he had to resort to taking this, famous English butler, in theory, to the Queen? I don't know.
Or Winston Churchill, at least. He worked for Churchill at one point. He says that. And
I thought he buttled for the Queen at some point.
I don't know if they said that, but I know he buttled for Churchill.
He's a modern-day Mary Poppins, but, fat.
Yeah, yeah.
Where he comes in to help this disheveled family that's falling apart. And then, I don't know. Is he also a con man?
I don't know. Maybe he never did any of those things.
I don't think he did.
You think he's not actually British? I think it's possible.
I know he posed for UK Bear magazine.
Right.
We've had Tim Curry as British butler. And Michael Gaw, or Alfred, who is sometimes British.
Yeah.
Is the role of butler a holdover from a caste system? In U.S., you might have a maid. You might have a nanny.
Sure.
It doesn't seem like it's as common.
No, I think, yes. I think...
That made that fish out of water movie.
The butler as head of household who runs everyone else, be it the maids or the footmen or anything like that, just doesn't never really translate to America. So the closest you can get is Lynn Belvedere.
Yeah. So we so far, by the way, we've had 2 black butlers and 3 British butlers.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So we're really diversifying on the show here.
My last pick isn't Punjab from Annie, so don't worry.
Good.
Why did you pick Belvedere?
Well, I wanted to talk about this. So I, in a past life, was a newspaper reporter, a sports reporter, which is what Bob Uecker's character, George, I think it was on the show. There is no way in hell, even in Pittsburgh, that a sports writer could afford a full-time live-in butler. And his wife, I don't think, didn't work. She was going to law school. No way. I could barely afford rent for myself most of the time when I was working in a newspaper. I don't care how, even the lead columnist. No way. What was he doing on the side? What kind of illegal BS. Was he like the break? It was like the Heisenberg of Pittsburgh in the 80s.
There's a lot of Connery going on in this. Whether
he was
Belvedere,
a crime fighter.
Yeah, whether Belvedere.
Was there like a PI show? Yeah. Like where Bob Euchre's like a private eye at night, and that's why he needs the help
Like
because
Simon and Simon.
I had no idea.
Euchre.
I had no idea that Bob Euchre was a baseball player growing up.
You just thought he was the guy from Mr. Belvedere?
I just thought he was just some weird comedy guy.
I remember seeing him appear as himself on a lot of shows.
Like he'd be on Carson a lot.
Yeah.
He was a favorite of him talking about like how bad he was at baseball.
Yeah.
Or I remember one time, the clip of it on YouTube, where he starts talking about the DUI he picked up over spring training and uses this as like a platform for like 2-3 minutes of solid comedy.
Solid comedy.
Nothing. 70s. Oh, you guys are awful.
Did he, though, have a World Series ring? Did he play on a team that won?
The Braves. He might have been on the Braves when they won in Milwaukee. Possible.
You know, you mentioned that Benson.
We'll reference that.
That Benson was the show that had a great number of like bottle episodes.
Yeah.
Mr. Belvedere was all about like the special episode. Each one there was like a lesson learned in which at the end he'd always write down in his journal about his adventures with what was the name of the
illegal cockfighting is wrong.
Now, Wesley, let me tell you about cockfighting.
Wesley, glory holes are for grown men.
So, are you leading toward the very special episode that I'm thinking of?
Probably. Well, I don't really
was there
care
one
to talk about it. It just felt like that there was always something going on. Like that was such a trope of like 80s. Mm-hmm. There was always a lesson to be learned. And at the end of the day, he would sit there and he would just jot down and judge over everyone else.
It was not the type of show that was smart enough to pull off the type of special episodes that they thought they could pull off.
Yeah.
They did one where they're trying to, I think, mirror the Ryan White situation.
Okay, was it the camp?
Kid with AIDS.
Oh.
Yeah. And so one of Wesley's friends.
Yes, I remember now.
Or kid moves in and he has AIDS. Uh-huh. And so no one will play with him, and Wesley decides he doesn't want to play with him, and then Mr. Belvedere, of course, smooths it all out within the course of 22 minutes. Yeah, and so Wesley doesn't want to play with him at first, and then Mr. Belvedere comes in, and with his British wisdom, because, the British, very caring and understanding of people who are sick, and people who have class issues, comes in and fixes it within 22 minutes, and they get back to being friends again.
Yeah.
And I just remember this because there is I don't know if YouTubes have memes or what, but someone took the clip of when the kid comes in to visit at the end, and Bob Euchre goes, "Well, how's it going, Billy?" And the kid goes, "That's great, except for the AIDS."
God, brutal.
And and then somebody has clipped that, and then right after that, just slowed all the reactions down to like, and like Bob Euchre's got this look on his face like, "What have I done?" But to be honest with you, I really picked Mr. Belvedere because I wanted to sing the theme song.
Okay.
Who cares? Oh yeah, everything. Because I love Leon Redbone.
That's hilarious.
From the Budweiser song. We don't have singers anymore who are like these oddball, like singing with a style from a different generation, and back then we just accepted that Leon Redbone was a thing.
Yeah,
that he could do like the Budweiser song, "Budge for you, wish a budge for you." Also, it's one of the few impersonations I think I actually do pretty well. But like
you do, huh?
Yeah, that's right here. But we don't have stuff like that anymore. I wish we had more weirdo musicians like that.
Yeah,
rant over.
Yeah. Do you feel like they saw the Facts of Life arc where Jerry Jewell was the girl in the wheelchair who was confronting Blair and confronting and they thought, we can do better. Yeah, we got a kid with AIDS.
They're always trying to one-up each other in the special episode.
The special episode.
Yeah. Even Family Ties was like, "Ooh, we're not going to touch that one."
Yeah. No.
Okay, so my last one, Lurch from the Addams Family.
Oh.
When we were talking about like whether these people are family or not, I think Lurch is part of the Addams family.
Yeah. Oh,
I think he's literally like made out of parts of different Addamses.
Okay.
Family. He's this Frankenstein-like character that I guess, they make him work for them, which seems really cruel.
That's
for a
his
family
role.
that's not very cruel.
Mm-hmm.
They're generally pretty warm and welcoming, in spite their gothic.
Yeah.
Their gothicness. They're
That's
like
the irony. They're not monsters. They're warm people.
Yeah.
Who look like monsters. Yeah.
But then they force this guy who can barely speak to lurch his way through every scene and just be odd and weird.
Does
and
the hand
grotesque.
perform butlery things too?
No, just hand jobs.
Sweet.
Put an ad out in the paper. I think he answers the phone.
No, I mean it does jobs that you have to use your hand for.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know what you guys are. You guys thinking of something else?
Were you an Addams Family guy or a Munsters guy? It's like the classic Beatles Stones question.
Yeah, I found Addams Family later. I think Munsters.
Munsters might have been
I was a
on
Munsters guy
first.
too.
I think that might have been the one that was on Nick at Night first. That's probably where we all kind of came into it.
I think it was always just like goofier. Or like just sillier.
Yeah.
I always appreciated that, the other Frankenstein in the Munsters was, just this goofy, dumbass dad.
Yeah, I felt like they were more working class, and the Addams family
definitely.
were,
Oh, yeah.
They could afford a butler.
Yeah. And the other Munsters was fun monsters. So the Munsters.
Is that what
That's why they got
Is that like Muppets?
together. And I didn't realize that there was also those shows.
Is Fred Gwynn a Muppet?
Those shows
Let's not
were
start
all,
this again, Michael. I've already apologized to you about this. Let's not reopen old wounds.
there was a series of hayseed shows, which was like Andy Griffith, Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies,
Mayberry RFD.
And then
Hee-haw.
Munsters was part of the was part of the supernatural shows. I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, Addams Family. But then there was also like My Mother, the Car, or Mr. Ed, the things that had a supernatural, unexplained component to them. Lurch was different than he didn't provide wry commentary like didn't have the verbal facility.
He was literally just like this.
Rang.
Just this manservant.
Yeah.
Thing. He just served like he didn't. There didn't seem to be any sort of familiarity with him. They didn't really treat him like family, although I think that he probably was family.
Yeah.
Everyone else seems to be ingratiated within like the family element. But he seems to be of the family, but definitely something separate.
Like maybe he was lobotomized or something, but they rather than kick him to the curb, everybody's got a job here in the mansion. Well, this was a fun discussion, and I appreciate you guys going forth with this because I realized it was my choice, and it was kind of a reach. We've been doing, I don't know, near on 70 episodes now, is it? And so that was a little bit esoteric. I'm at Rushmore fictitious butlers, but I do appreciate how butlers can be like family members and also servants. They definitely can also have work for but have authority over their employer at some point. So this was a real fun challenge. It's a challenge to judge these because I know I have to judge because that's my role here.
You're like our butler, Jeff.
It's like I'm your butler.
Jeeves, come over here. By the way, Michael, you didn't pick Jeeves?
He is a valet, not a butler.
What's the difference?
He's a gentleman's personal gentleman.
Okay, what's the difference for us hick sports reporters who can only afford a butler? What's the difference?
Technically, he didn't manage Bertie Wooster's house. He
traveled with him.
He traveled with him.
Just managed him, basically?
He was a him manager. But he wasn't there to run the household, although he did kind of household chores.
He was like his personal assistant.
Yes.
So the crossover ones we had, Wadsworth from Clue. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yes.
from Cluedo.
Oh, Cluedo.
From Cluedo. We both had Mr. Belvedere, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So obviously there's brilliant minds working together there. So each get a point for Wadsworth. Each get a point for Mr. Belvedere. And then since I like this show so much and it reminded me of my boner for Krause, Benson is one that I like. And I just like the commentary on Alfred and all the differing things that came up there. So I want to give a point for Alfred. But for discussing race and the role of the African American in comedy and discussing the identity of the Jewish intellectual, even though they take on a pseudonym, I would like to add another point for Rochester from the Jack Benny Show.
So we got 5 people on this Rushmore?
Yes, this is an extra.
Well, one's the butler that's helping to serve.
The butler.
Exactly.
we have to get to the washing and get to the laundry because our butler has been on holiday this weekend. So we'll have to go now. This has been the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff.
I'm Richard.
I'm Michael.